student loan debt problem.
Student debt.
Student debt.
As a generation ago, we were #1 in college graduates. But over the past couple of decades, this country has slipped all the way to 12th. All are going to need some form of higher education in order to build the kind of lives that you want for yourselves, good careers, to be able to provide for your families.
It is a national disgrace that hundreds of thousands of young Americans do not go to college, not because they are unqualified, but simply because they cannot afford it. This is absolutely counterproductive to our efforts to create a strong, competitive economy and a vibrant middle class. This is not what America is supposed to be about. This disgrace has got to end.
College acceptance reactions. We've all seen them. But after getting accepted, what's next? You'll find many students asking themselves,
how am I going to pay for this?
I come from a really, really poor family, like less than $20,000 a year family. Like, we don't have the money for college, so like, it's rough. Nobody in my family went to college. It was like just unrealistic to think like, oh, I can do this, because it seemed like something that like, honestly, like I just wouldn't do. I couldn't afford, I wasn't going to be able to, you know. Like, I knew my family didn't make enough money, and I knew college was like crazy expensive, so I was like, I'll just do 2 years at OC and then I'll stop. But I don't know, I was like, I know my mom wanted me to do better than she did in life, so I was like, I'll just go to college and see what happens.
When you get a college education, or any other young adult gets a college education, not only do they privately benefit in the labor market and with that knowledge, there's also a social benefit by having an educated workforce. So as a society as a whole, whether it's tax revenue, better citizenship, better choices, better health, we're all better off. And it's with that theory that really justifies why public universities in every state are to some degree subsidized. So the state subsidizes an in-state public education to make it more affordable option, because we believe society as a whole could benefit when we increase the amount of people who have a college degree.
At a young age, Americans are told how important a higher education is, to try hard in school, to apply to colleges, to get a degree to earn a better life. But why is college so expensive, and why are so many students left with the burden of debt? Only 13% of students have a job lined up after they graduate. But what about the 87%?
For me, I now have cumulatively, I think, somewhere around $22,000 in student loan debt. That is just hovering over me. It hasn't gone anywhere. I haven't been able to pay it off or pay towards it because of I lost my job my senior year of college, 1 month before I graduated.
Oh.
And it helped me do good in my finals, so I had time to study. But I basically, I was unemployed for 6 months straight. I couldn't get a job. My bachelor's degree, my associate's degree did nothing for me. I got my associate's in liberal arts. It's a generic. And then I got my bachelor's in psychology. And every single job I applied to, nothing helped me. None of my degrees helped me get a job. Mm-hmm. So I still can't even afford my college loans. I keep having to defer them because I can't pay anything towards them. But you think out of sight, out of mind. Like, you try not to think about it. But I just got a house, and my student loans could have ruined the chance of me getting a house. And it stresses me out when I think about it, because I'm like, there's no catching up. How? I'm still part-time. I've been part-time with all of my jobs for years. We're talking almost 7 years. And I have my own bills. How can I even set aside $200 that they want me to pay $250 a month. That's like a car payment right there. I can't afford that. So right now I'm only paying $100 a month, and that's just interest.
That leaves us with an open question of why?
So let's talk about the rising cost of college education. So the price of everything has gone up since 1990. So what the real story is that the relative price of college education has gotten higher. In other words, college costs have risen faster than the rate of inflation, than the rate of household income. And that's really where the problem is. And here's an example I gave to my economics class. In 1980, the minimum wage was only $3 an hour in the state of New York. So if you worked a summer job full-time, 12 weeks, 40 hours, you would earn about $1,440. SUNY tuition for the entire year in 1980 was $900. So in other words, by working a full-time job, you could pay about 150% of your tuition for the following year. Now let's fast forward to 2016. Let's round the minimum wage to $10 an hour. It's a little less, but let's say it's $10 an hour. So now you're actually looking at what, $4,800 in a summer job. Tuition is $6,470. So in other words, you can only pay about 75% of your tuition with a full-time summer job.
Yep, you heard right. Let's rewind.
In 1980, the minimum wage was $3 an hour. So if a student worked for 40 hours a week for 12 weeks, which is a summer vacation, they would end up with $1,440. Tuition was $900. So if you subtract, they actually end up with $540 left that could be used for room and board, food, and books. But comparing 1980 to 2017 is quite scary. The minimum wage in New York is $9.70. So if a student works for 40 hours a week for 12 weeks, they end up with $4,656. But tuition now is $6,470 a year. So that means they actually end up owing $1,800. Forcing students to take out loans for room and board, food, books, and for other things that students might need.
In other words, wages haven't kept up with the cost of college, so it's relatively more expensive. So that median household income family has a harder time sending their sons and daughters to college because their income hasn't gone up enough to sort of compensate.
So when a student applies for FAFSA, they have to put their parents' annual income. So that income is actually before taxes, and FAFSA doesn't take in consideration mortgage, doesn't take in consideration bills, doesn't take care of consideration anything. So for my parents, it looks like they make more than they do because of those taxes that haven't been taken away. So I actually don't receive any Pell Grants. I got completely denied because, like that saying goes, too rich for FAFSA but too poor for college. And that's where I am now. You know, I'm stuck in a $40,000 loan debt that I have to pay off 6 months after I graduate. And at this point, it's just building up as the semesters go by. So where does that leave millions of Americans today? 44.2 million Americans now have a student loan debt. And since 1999, student debt has gone up 500%. And now US has a $1.41 trillion in just student loan debt today. Education shouldn't just be a privilege, but it should help our economy and it should help people grow as individuals, because I do believe that education and knowledge is power. But unfortunately, the price tag is just way too high, and I just wanted to make a difference. And I want to change people's perspective on why this is such a big issue and why this epidemic of student loans is just happening so much more than it should be. You know, I'm not the only student that has to take out $40,000. There's people that have to take out $70,000, $100,000, depending on the college that they go to. And it sucks that we are placed in this society that is just based all around money.
College is a mandatory step if you really want to be a success. And the way this society said, we're going to pay for high school, because you need high school. This society should say, we're going to pay for college because you need college to be successful. And New York State is going to do something about it. Free tuition to a state 2-year school or a 4-year school if you come from any family earning $125,000 or less. The state will provide free tuition.
Starting the fall of 2017, students in New York will now be able to go to a 2-year or 4-year college tuition-free if they qualify. One big step to something bigger. Hopefully New York will be the role model that other states could follow to finally guarantee a higher education to everyone.